The days of the one-room schoolhouse are long gone. In an age of technology and specialized curriculum, the planning, construction, and maintenance of large campuses from elementary school through high school calls for a diverse group of administrators behind the scenes to ensure a safe and clean environment, buildings which offer teachers the space and the tools to reach all students, and a vision for the future as student population rises and falls. A comprehensive facilities management program should be based on sound planning, cost-effective design and construction, proactive maintenance and cleaning, and aggressive energy management strategies. In a recent study conducted by MGT, an independent company, Sarasota County Schools received commendations in all those areas. Our staff has overseen new and revamped facilities that are based on educational programs and enrollment with input from stakeholders, and have provided maintenance of over 45 sites in an efficient and effective manner using ever-decreasing budgets and personnel. School matters to the behind-the-scenes administrators, some of whom we will meet today as we discuss the areas of accomplishment in maintenance, facilities, construction, and energy cost savings. This is School Matters. Hi, thank you for tuning in to another episode of School Matters. I'm Leanne McIntyre, and with me today are Scott Lempe, the Chief Operating Officer of Sarasota County Schools.
Good afternoon.
Hi. Mark Smith, who is the Director of Construction Services.
Good afternoon.
And then Jody Dumas, who is the Director of Facility Services.
Hello.
Jody, welcome very much. Thank you for coming.
Glad to be here.
I'm glad you came. These shows have been looking at the MGT Independent Study. And that study really looked at how the business of a school district is run. So that's why you all are here today, because you represent some of the biggest divisions in the business. And you received a lot of commendations. So obviously things are going very well. So Scott, I'd like to talk with you because the first one deals with efficient organizational structure. And probably without that, it's very hard for all your diverse departments to run. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I guess I would. The first thing I would say is it all starts with people. From a leadership perspective, I find myself in a very enviable place. As a kind of leadership philosophy, I always believe that you surround yourself with extremely high quality people. You give them the tools and the training that they need, or at least access to those things, and then you get the heck out of their way and you let them go do their jobs. And I found that to be effective, and two of those very high quality people are sitting with us today. To have people like Jody and Mark on the team, along with Mr. Ken Marsh, who is our Director of Long Range Planning, that just sets the stage, I think, for things to work well. Once that, I use the phrase, walk away and let them do their jobs. I don't want that to sound like you then walk away, because anything but that is the truth. We pay attention every day to what I would call key performance indicators, measurable, quantifiable outcomes of what we do that guide the directions we head and where we need to change. We stay plugged into industry standards and those kinds of things. So we do a lot to stay up on what's going on in the industry, working with our peer districts around the state. Our organizational structure itself was very deliberate. It's not an accident that long range planning, construction services, and facilities are together. Those are the building guys. And so they're organized together on purpose, not only on the org chart, but geographically. Their offices are all within walking distance. That allows them to share resources, and probably more importantly, though, it allows them to stay focused on the same things every day so that they know what each other are doing. I've heard Lori White say it's less about the lines on an organization chart than it is about the relationships people have. And I think over the years, Ken, Jody, and Mark have established extremely powerful working relationships that show up. One of the ways that shows up is in the culture that they have attempted to create. And that culture is really, we're about kids. We're not in the business of building buildings or cleaning buildings or maintaining buildings. We're in the business of supporting students. And you do that through your impact on buildings, but it's all about kids. And as they push that culture down into their organizations, it just makes us more efficient and effective.
Great. Terrific. So, Mark, In construction services, how do you run your group, your staff, in managing the multitude of projects in construction we've had over the last few years, from total building of brand new schools to simply replacing AC units?
Well, we don't replace AC units. That's really Jody's job.
That's okay.
Facilities department. But as Scott alluded to, we do work very closely together, Ken Marsh and Jody and myself, because we are literally joined at the hip. What Ken plans, we build. What we build, Jody maintains. So we work very closely together. We're always talking to each other. And our departments, as Scott mentioned, are stone's throw away. Our department is a small department in terms of people. We have 3 project managers who run all of our construction and renovation projects. But we are very proud of the results of what they do. We have are wrapping up 3 major rebuilds: Venice High School, of which I'm sure you're aware, and I hope the taxpayers are. STTI, we're sitting in that building right now, and Booker High School. Booker High School will finish before the other 2. But last year, with our 3 project managers and 9 other support staff, we managed $90 million worth of work, and we did it very efficiently.
Wow.
Our projects are all on budget or under budget, and all on schedule or ahead of schedule.
Excellent.
We're very proud of that.
Excellent. So how do you have the staff then to build those facilities? Are we hiring outside people?
Yes, we are really program managers. Once a project is identified by the board, we are authorized to move ahead. We hire private sector companies, architects, and construction management firms to actually do the design, do the pricing, and doing the construction. We oversee what they do, and we approve everything they do, and we also inspect. We also have our own building department with all our inspectors. And so through that process, we are able not only to manage the projects, we inspect them for code compliance, and then we also inspect them for quality assurance.
Wow.
And we also make sure they follow our guidelines, which is very important.
Important, right, because it is all about, building a school is not the same as building a house or building a hospital or an office building.
Schools are very intricate, complicated buildings, and with the technology that we now support, it's very involved. And that means we also work pretty closely with IT to make sure we get in everything that they need.
Right. Now, Scott, can you talk a little bit about the budget impact of hiring people during this recession and all the construction that we have been doing?
Sure. I guess when you think back to why it is we decided to take on these 3 big multi-million-dollar projects, there were really 3 key things that caused us to go there. Number 1 is money was cheap. If you could afford to borrow money, now was the time because interest rates were at historic lows. Second, construction costs were falling and fell really through the construction of these projects. So if you can afford to build, now is the time, or now was the time as we wrap these up.
Right.
Third, and equally significant, is the fact that this community had an economy that was struggling. And as we invested tens of millions of dollars in building schools, much of that money stayed local in the form of local labor. And so we were able to help local business stay employed during a very tough economic time.
Right. So Jody, joined at the hips here.
Yes.
Where do you fit in from the beginning of the process? What kind of input do you have as the person who then has to maintain what they're going to build?
Well, it really is a teamwork process, and I think what you're going to find in our district that's different than any other district is we are really on the front side of that process, and it starts all.
I would agree.
It's an ongoing process where Mark referred to the technical specifications, and we have people that are involved in that all the time, even if we're not building. We're always looking at new technologies. We're always looking at what do we want in school buildings that maximize life cycle, and so that's always an ongoing process. And so when we go to design a building, we're very fortunate that Mark invites us to the table, and we get to have input in terms of what does that design look like, what are the fits and finishes that go in buildings, how should it be built, how should it sit on the campus. That's really a team decision, and so we're very lucky to be part of that because, again, our focus on maintenance is to decrease costs over time. Construction always wants to build it for good cost, and so it's always a balance between those 2 issues. What's the right cost to build the building? What are the right fits and finishes that over time are going to give you that lowest cost for the school district? So I think with all of us at the table, we can really kind of weigh those out and make the best selections for our buildings over time.
Right.
Let me give you.
We're always cognizant of initial cost. We want to keep costs down as much as we can. But in some cases, it's worth it to spend a little more money up front when your return on the dollar investment is there. And there are certain finishes that we do for Jody that allow his custodians to move much faster, saves time, he doesn't have to staff as high. So the payback is huge.
Right.
I was just going to give you a couple of examples of
Right.
exactly what Mark just said. If you look at Venice and Booker high schools today, you'll notice that their exteriors are brick. A little bit more expensive on the front end
They
to build a brick fascia building. But what that means to facilities services is a school like Venice High School would probably cost us on the order of $70,000 to $100,000 to paint. If you consider that you're going to do that every 7 years or so and the building's going to last 50 years,
Right.
you do the math, $70,000 or $100,000 times 7 to 10 paint cycles over the life cycle of the building, that's expensive.
That is.
Brick exterior allows him to avoid that.
We do a lot of floor finishes and wall finishes too that are minimal maintenance.
Yeah, I was going to
and-
say,
and-
like in a home, you know, what carpet do you pick?
Right.
Absolutely.
And as a
Same
carpet is
here.
another issue where we spend a little more money, but we have a much longer life carpet that's very cleanable. And so years ago, we used to have to replace carpet every 7 years. Now it's a 20-year replacement cycle.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah,
Excellent.
the other thing that ties into that we also need to consider is, remember, schools are used 24/7, and they're used all year round. There's really not a break in time where we don't have teachers and students on campus for some reason, and so we don't have really a lot of time to get into new remodeling
Right.
projects. So not only are we selecting fits and finishes that are cost effective, but we don't want to disturb a school. We want to make sure we put the right things in, leave them alone to do a great job, and selection of fits and finishes allows us to do that. We're not disturbing a classroom every 5 years. We can go 10, 15 years. So that's good for teachers, it's good for the school environment.
Very good, very good. So also, Jody, there was a commendation for maintenance and custodial. Is there a difference between those two departments? Could you talk about that?
Well, sure. Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. We're really known as facility services, but they're really two distinct sides of our department. One being custodial, one being kind of maintenance. Custodial doing the cleaning, maintenance doing the I'm going to repair a light bulb, I'm going to fix an AC system. So those are really the two sides of our department. Although we operate as two sides of the department, we are really linked those two together because we believe, as we reorganized several years ago, we believe that the custodial workforce is really started the maintenance process. And so even though they're distinctly different divisions, they really work closely together, and they have to, so that what's being seen in custodial at night in the routes can very proactively get on a work order, get completed before the teacher notices the problem in the classroom. So we kind of coordinate the two sides of our department through one manager. Each of our areas has a facility manager. The facility manager is the one-stop shopping for all maintenance activities, custodial and maintenance at the site. So they are responsible to coordinate. They coordinate that custodial side, they coordinate that maintenance side, and they really bring that together nicely for the school and for our customers.
Oh, okay, very good. Now, I know every year there's the white glove test, and you were also commended for how clean our schools are
Thank you.
and how you, I don't know, say green, how you maximize what you're trying to do with fewer and fewer dollars and fewer people. So why don't you talk a little bit about how, like, first of all, how many square feet are you cleaning?
This year, about 8.6 million square feet each night.
It's a staggering number.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things that Scott talked about is metrics, and we have a lot of metrics and facilities because we really try to watch our business practices and really pay attention to what we're doing and to make adjustments. We started reorganizing facility services, both custodial and maintenance, back in 2005. On the custodial side specifically, one of the factors that we really watch is cost per square foot. We're always cognizant of the bottom line, and we want to make sure we are cleaning schools effectively and efficiently. We leave a clean environment for students, but we're also doing that with as fewer people as we possibly can, because every dollar we spend on custodial is a dollar that can't be spent on teachers. So we're very cognizant of that. So what we do is we design routes that we actually build a route from the individual little nuances that you may do. So I'm going to clean a faucet, that takes so many seconds. I'm going to clean a urinal, that takes so many seconds. And so when we look at a school site, we build that route based on the activities in the route, and we really try and make sure the the route is very effective and efficient so they can get to that route quickly. And we also provide them with the training and very up-to-date tools. We're actually utilizing a 100% microfiber cleaning system. The cart is set up so it's very effective and efficient. When the custodian gets to the room, they're not wasting a lot of time spraying chemicals. Everything is pre-soaked. And all those chemicals are standardized. So we do 99% of our cleaning with one chemical. It's a green chemical. It's a sanitizer. We have a few other chemicals that can come in as disinfectants if we need to. But the route is really set up effectively and efficiently, so any custodian can go to that route, can very quickly get through the route, and provide a great environment for students to come back to the next day. We are cleaning now, we benchmark all of this stuff, we are cleaning now on average per night 27,000 square feet per custodian. That is over any benchmark that we can look to, and MGT kind of recognizes us for that, because that's a large area
That
each
is
night.
large. That is a lot of square. If I think of my own home and how long it takes me to run around and clean my space, that's staggering. And we're dealing with children, so we know children can be messy, and we know it's a safety and health issue. So
One of the most, of all the numbers in the MGT report, one of those that I will remember forever is when they talked about custodial manning. The state, the Department of Education, has a benchmark, and they said if Jody's department was manned at that benchmark, he would have to add 144 custodians. And I want you to think about what that says about the efficiency of that department that they're running. And when you look at our customer service ratings, I don't know if we have time to talk about those, but his customer service ratings on custodial on our scale of 0 to 5 are always above 4.5. So our schools are clean, but he's doing it with 144 less people. Do the math and think about what that would cost to hire that many custodians were he not as efficient as he is.
We have a very comprehensive inspection schedule where head custodians inspect monthly, every route, managers inspect monthly, not every route, but a selection. And we really take those scores seriously. We compile them into another metric that's kind of a custodial cleanliness score at each site that's looked at yearly. But really what it's all about, and Scott referred to this earlier, it's all about the people you have. And if I take a look at our custodial staff, from our management crew, Lou Stecklin, on down, through the facility managers, to the head custodians, gosh, when I look at what we've been able to do in the last several years, we've got great head custodians who are not only good custodians in terms of technically being able to clean, they're good leaders. And so they're able to say, okay, how do we go ahead and set up for this program tonight where we have 500 kids on campus, but how do we also clean routes too?
at the same.
That's not easy. And so you got to have good people in the right positions to be able to do that. And our custodial staff, hats off to them. They are cleaning more square footage than any district around us. Our qualities, I would put it against anybody in the state of Florida. And so I'm so proud of them. And again, it's about people. No matter what we do, if we didn't have great custodians, great head custodians, it wouldn't happen.
Right. Very good. All right. This is great. So the other area, which is a very big area, and I think may wrap up the show, but we'll see, is energy. So we got a great commendation on our management and efficiency and use of energy. We thousands and thousands of square feet, over 40 schools. Obviously, we consume a lot of energy, but we've been cutting back and saving in that. So Scott, why don't you start with a talk of how we've instituted this energy savings program.
Sure. Let me put the conversation in context and then lean on Jody to talk about how the program is run. Right now today, if you were to open the 13-14 budget, you would see a line item in there called energy services, and that line item is $10.5 million for this school year alone. About $8 million of that 10.5 is just to pay the light bill. So about 6 years ago, we looked at that number and said, that number's too big to not focus some energy on and say, are we being as efficient and effective as we can there? So we entered into a contractual agreement with a company then called Energy Education. They're now called Synergistics.
Correct, yeah.
And they brought us a program that was really a two-phase program. Phase number one was behavior modification. Get people to turn the lights off when they leave the room. And second was the application of technologies when they make sense to help you manage down the electric bill. When you combine that with the focus that both Mark and Jody have talked about already of upfront investments in the building, that's what's really helped us manage what I think is a benchmark energy program in the state of Florida.
So in the construction area with some of these new buildings, Mark, a couple of things perhaps that are innovative in terms of energy?
Yes, we are a leader in the state and really in the country for thermal ice storage systems in our air conditioning, which is a simple way of saying at night we make ice and during the day we use it to cool buildings. And even in Sarasota, even in the winter time, the coldest day we have by noon or 1 o'clock, we're in air conditioning just because of the thermal load of the students who are in the classrooms.
Right.
So we save a lot of money by using ice storage. It's a little more money up front, but FP&L actually reimburses us a large portion of that cost. We also use high efficiency light fixtures. We use a centralized control system, which really is in Jody's department because he's the one who actually controls the air conditioning systems. And that centralized control allows us to track all kinds of metrics and take and make the systems just as efficient as they can be. And we do our schools with chilled water systems. It's not like a mini split system like you might see in your house.
Right.
Chilled water is a very complicated but very efficient way of air conditioning buildings.
So you're the one I come to if I'm too hot or too cold.
No, that's Mark.
Nice try.
Let me jump on what Mark says in terms of the ice storage systems that we have at many of our campuses and we continue to install each year. One of the benefits of that program is not only the energy savings, but let's talk about Fruitville Elementary. We were just able to install one last year over there. The price of that project was, round numbers, about $400,000.
Yeah, it was about 400.
To install that. We receive a direct rebate from FP&L for doing that project. As a capital investment that will reduce their energy load. We received back around about $150,000. So that nets our cost down quite a bit. We are currently saving about $2,500 a month in our electric bill just because we've done that. And so when you look at those numbers, we are able to save capital dollars because we get the rebate back from FP&L.
Right.
But the investment in capital dollars then drives a corresponding energy reduction, which is our operating function, which again allows us to spend more money on teachers, more money in classrooms where we want to spend it, and not on cooling the building.
Cooling the building.
So that's a
Right.
good example how that all works. But the rest of our program, is basically wrapped around those strategies plus the behavioral strategies. We really have to take our hats off to teachers and principals and students because a good part of our program really in the last 5-6 years is really educating them to help us just when you're not in an area, turn everything off.
Turn everything off.
So
right.
that's a big
Makes
part
a
of our
big
program.
difference.
Yes, because we are in tech. We're going to jump in. We have a little bit to technology, but with so much technology, just making sure that you turn all the computers off in the building when you leave
Absolutely.
makes a huge difference.
Computer labs. Think about a computer lab.
Right.
There's 30 computers in a computer lab. So if you walk out the door and the monitors are on, the computers are on, the speakers are on, the energy consumption of just that one lab times 12 or 15 at Sarasota High School alone, that's
Oh,
expensive.
right, all weekend
And
long.
multiply that through the entire
Entire
school
school-
district.
Right.
It's huge.
Huge, huge. I cut you off. Was there anything else you wanted to
No,
share?
the other things we employ are control strategies. Certainly that helps us save quite a bit of money. And we control all the AC systems in the district, heating and ventilation. And for example, one of the things that we do is when we build a new building, we have to bring in a certain amount of outside air. And when that's built, it's built for having a classroom loaded with a full number of students in there, plus the teacher. And so we're bringing in a lot of outside air. We have to condition that outside air and take out the humidity before it goes in. So our AC systems are taking on that additional load. What we do now is we've actually gone out and installed CO2 monitors in all of these areas so we can reduce the amount of outside air we bring in, still maintain our correct levels with CO2, but we are reducing what we have to heat or air condition or dehumidify.
okay.
And so, for example, at Northport High, we did that as kind of our test area. Again, we went out, we bought these systems, we installed them personally from our maintenance division. They went out and did this installation. We received a rebate from FP&L for buying these, so we received that capital dollars back. But on the other side, we've been able to reduce our overall utility expense budget at Northport High drastically over the last several years just by doing that one control strategy. So it's behavioral, it's capital investments, and then it's control strategies to get those.
It all does it, which is very important because those are the recurring dollars.
Absolutely.
That we're always facing a difficulty with, and always looking for ways to reduce those. So we do have just a couple more minutes here to go back to the topic of technology, talking about the consumption of energy with computers, construction needing to take into mind what kind of technology is needed in the building, how is it going to be maintained. So why don't we speak a little bit about that. We're going to do another whole show on it, but let's touch how it affects your departments.
Well, we certainly coordinate with IT to find out what it is the needs are going to be. And of course, as we all know, the technology that's here now is obsolete tomorrow. So we're always looking ahead at what we think, which direction we think that technology is going. And of course, now the big discussion is bring your own device. And that has its own connotations, and I'm really not qualified to speak to that. But I will say that we have to try, and we do succeed, I think, in providing the infrastructure to support that. And that takes a lot of discussions between Joe Binswanger, who's the director of IT, ourselves, and my staff, his staff, and our engineers designing projects.
One of the ways that coordination shows up, I think, is we have an organization we call the CPT, or the Capital Projects Team. We meet typically twice a month or so. It's the three of us, plus IT, plus safety and security, plus our staff architect, plus our data guru who works for Jody, Melanie Gambos. And we talk about not only competing future projects, but the projects that are going on now. And one of the goals is so that if Mark or Jody are in renovating a space, and that renovation includes removing the ceiling tiles, for example, we don't want to finish that construction and have the IT guys say, gosh, we wish you knew you were in there because we would have loved to run some cable up there. Have them at the table while you're doing the planning.
Right, right. Does technology affect you in any way? And your
Well,
people?
I think it does, and I think it affects all of us equally. We're really always thinking about it, and if I would sum it up a little bit, I would try to say that we really don't know, in terms of a teaching model, what's going to be the next thing around the corner that we need to move to make sure we're moving education along. In IT, is it bring your own device, or what's the next thing that needs to be coming along? I think our team really focuses on providing the best buildings, but providing buildings that are flexible over time. And so that, we may not know what's coming next, but we've provided a building that can be modified very quickly and easily, that we can bring these new technologies in. We spend a lot of time doing that as a team, and so I think that's really kind of a culmination of this team, the CPT and IT, and everybody just putting our heads together to say, okay, we're not sure what's next, but let's provide a building we think can be changed to meet the needs of the Sarasota County School District long term.
Great. So Scott, any last thoughts that you'd like to share with the public? We're about out of time.
Well, I think the more the public is educated on how collectively we are doing business, I think the more they know about, both Jody and Mark talked about things like benchmarks and holding down costs. I think the more the public knows about what we're doing, the more comfort they're going to have. And people ask me all the time, why don't you run the business of the district more like a business? Wrong question. Why don't you run the business of the district more like a successful business? And I think by any standard, we are collectively together doing exactly that. And I invite our public into any of our facilities to look at their maintenance, to look at their cleanliness. And I think when you leave, when I walk into a campus, I walk on as a father first. Would I send my kid to school here? And on every one of our campuses, the answer to that question is yes. I would invite our public to do the same.
Great.
We take great pride in our facilities. They're really the face of the district. And we're very proud. I'm very proud to say I'm responsible for that and have participated in that.
That's great. Great. Jody, any last thoughts?
Well, I would just kind of echo what they both say, and I would say we're all very proud of our departments. We really try to, again, run efficiently and effective. We really try to run to be able to put against anybody and say we can, compared to against anybody, our costs are in line, our staffing is in line, our productivity is where it needs to be. And so we invite anybody who would be interested. We all create what Scott has got us working on. It's called year-end reports, which is kind of our benchmarking. It's our metrics. It's projects we've been working on. It's really kind of the state of the state for our area. And so those are produced every year. I know that Scott puts them online. We'd love to have people look at them and invite people to come in and look at our departments because we're proud of them.
Right. Great.
And at the end of the day, what makes it work is the focus, and you heard it a number of times, I think, is always on kids. How do you best support teachers and students?
Right. Very good, because they spend a lot of time in there.
Yes, they do.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today and talking on this topic. I think the public learned a lot. The business end is always sort of in the shadows behind the classroom, so thank you for joining me. And thank you, viewers, for tuning in again. We'll see you next time on School Matters.